The screen output page in AI is one of the most commonly used pages in the software. So let's have a little bit of a closer look at all of the tools and options available to us on this page. So when we're on this fixture, the left side is the original unmodified texture or image, and the right side equates to our system outputs. We can see those 8 potential video outputs shown along the top of the screen there. So the main tools that we're going to look at first are here on the left. So let's start at the very top. So we have the selection tool. So this lets us choose which of our regions or slices we are currently working on. The second tool down allows us to create pieces. So with this tool selected in rectangle mode, I can click and hold the mouse and then drag a piece out, and then on the output I can do the same. Click, hold, drag, let go. Now we can see that on rectangle mode the sides of the area will always be at 90 degrees to each other. There are times when you want a shape with more points and you don't want the sides to be at perpendicular angles. So if we right click on that tool, it becomes multi-point, and with this tool we can lay as many points in our region as we want, and a double click then completes that region. Just below that we have our translation tool. So this allows us to take our piece and move its position. So on the left I'm adjusting the piece that we're sampling, and on the right I'm adjusting the placement of that sampled piece. Next up we've got our scaling options. So we can either scale the source or the destination. We've then got a rotation amount. So we can either rotate the source, which will change what's shown in the output, or we can rotate the output, which changes how the source is shown. Or if we want to be very accurate, there's a number box that's shown here as well. So I can reset my pieces there. Then we have the 90-degree rotation tool. So that will simply take your piece and rotate it 90 degrees at a time. That's really useful when you're working with a large LED wall and maybe one of your panels is off axis. We've then got a horizontal flip button and a vertical flip button. Then we have a generative masking tool. So this tool applies various generative masks to the specified panel. This can be really useful if you're working with a large amount of LED panels and you really just want to break up the edge of the image to escape that standard rectangular look. The last two are for visual reference and will only show on the output itself. So this second to last one will make the selected region flash, and the bottom one will highlight the outline of the selected region. When we've got more than one region that we're working with, it can become useful to actually name those regions. So we can see at the moment the regions have a default naming. We've got an SR1 and an SR2. Every time I add a region to the project, it's added to this drop down list here on the bottom. We can see both of those regions, and I can actually choose from that drop down list to choose which piece I'm working on. When I've chosen a particular region, I can then, in the rename box, I can type a new name. So we're going to call that one main, and we're going to choose the other one and call it small. And we can see then that these are the names that we see here in the interface, which makes it much easier to know which piece you're editing and adjusting. At the top of the screen we've got 3 icons. So the one on the left with the 2 squares, that's the page that we're currently on, our standard screen output page. The second option gives us a new keystoning tool, which is new to version 10 of AI. So we can turn it on and we can then keystone the corners of our image as we require. And you'll see this happening on the output in real time as well. And then once we're happy that we've keystoned the majority of our shape in, we can add further grid warping to that by going into here and by dividing the screen by as many pieces as we need and adjusting the position of those control points. Down on the right, we've got a few ways of changing our layouts dynamically. So what we can do with the top button, we can save this current layout as one layout. The second button lets us load those different layouts. So maybe you do a lot of work in the same venue and they have a very specific layout to their LED screen. So using this, you could actually set it up once, save that layout, and then anytime you work in that venue, you can just load that layout straight into the project without having to refer to the old project. The third option down lets you assign multiple layouts and switch between them dynamically during your show. So you could switch from having your whole image spread across the whole screen to having a picture-in-picture type affair. It really adds some life to be able to change the layout during your show. We can also dynamically import a 3D model, and that's one for the advanced classes. We can import the geometry used on the screen fixture itself. So if we've imported a 3D model onto our screen fixture, we can import that straight away to create regions. We can import a template just into the background here. So that's really useful if maybe you're working with a complex LED processor layout and you know that certain parts of your screen need to hit certain parts of the processor. You can then load the image into here as a guideline, but essentially it won't show on the output. It will only show as the interface, and then you can align your pieces against that template. Then last but not least, the trash can icon deletes the selected region. The very last bit that we have here on the bottom right is our guides for when we want to do very precise work with the regions. So let's say, for instance, that I want to cut out this yellow piece here and only the yellow piece. So once I've placed an initial region, what we're seeing here on the right, we've got these 5 boxes. So the very top one, that's my current mouse position, and you can see that updating as I move my mouse around. Then we can see that in the following 4 squares, there's a lighter section in each square. That's the inside corner. So here we've got the inside top left, the inside top right, the inside bottom left, and the inside bottom right. So if I want to trim just the yellow piece, the first thing I need to do is adjust the position so that my top left corner is in the correct place. And as I do this, I'm watching those guides on the right. Need to go up a little bit there, and maybe across right 1, there we go. Then I can adjust the width. We see that yellow edge coming in nicely, and then I can adjust the height like so, and then I can place my final piece precisely where I need it to be and give it the resolution relative to that panel size. You can also adjust the R, G and B values of particular panels. If we bring this one just over to here, so maybe I have a panel and its colour is slightly wrong, so I can just bump those channels around a little bit to balance it up with the other panels. Last but not least, we can also use copy and paste on this screen, and the system will always try and paste at the next available place. So if I do Control C and Control V, like so, you can see that it's going to paste it at the next available sampling point and also the next available output point. And if I use Control Shift and V, it will paste vertically.